Kigame TV. Truth, love, and creativity.
Yes, brother.
Yeah.
Don't you think some of the prominent African scholars who are not necessarily specialized in religion or such kind of studies have taken to criticizing Christian religion as the Western religion?
Of course, they have.
What's your take on it?
You have a lot of what we call post-colonial writers, like Ngugi wa Thiong'o, you have Chinua Achebe, you have John Ganda, you have Okot Pibitek, that have done us havoc as Africans, and especially the church. You find that Akina Ngugi have portrayed Christianity as a white man's religion, as a Western religion. But you see, Alfred, Christianity has been on the African continent for a very, very long time. And you can, when you begin to say that Christianity has been here from the colonial time, then you neglect the fact that like the early church fathers were actually, you know, very serious Christians, like in Augustine, Tertullian, Origen, Athanasius of Alexandria. Augustine was from Algeria, and so on.
Back then it used to be called Carthage.
Carthage, yes. So, but you see, on the day of Pentecost, even the people that were in Jerusalem, when the Holy Spirit was coming upon the early disciples, there are people from Libya, from Cyrene, and so on. There are people from Egypt. So Christianity has been on the continent for a long time. So you could actually say that Christianity is an African religion. It is an African religion. And then a lot of people don't know about Nubia, about Ethiopia, and how there was such a strong church in Nubia for 1,000 years, from about 500 AD to about 1500 AD, a very strong church. Despite the Islamic invasion of North Africa, it survived.
In fact, there's this argument by this former South Sudanese leader, the late who died, Garang. He was arguing that Moses' mother was from South Sudan.
No, he has a point. You see, when you think about Cush, and when Miriam is having a problem with Moses because of marrying Zipporah and so on. If you look at Midian is not actually in Ethiopia, but the skin color there was an issue. But Moses himself lived in Africa. He was, he was
for a long time.
Before he led the Israelites out of Egypt, he was like an Egyptian prince. But you may actually not remember that when Herod wanted to kill Jesus, what does the angel say? Take the mother and the baby, go to Egypt. So Egypt actually hosted Jesus for some time, and he says stay there until I tell you. And when Herod died, so you could say that Jesus actually was nourished in Egypt. And the lifeline of Egypt is actually the River Nile.
That's true.
And the River Nile starts right here in East Africa, in Uganda. And so you could say Jesus drank the waters of Africa.
That's the River Nile.
And he was a baby, so he must have drank the milk from the cows of Africa. Kabisa?
That's
completely. And if you go back to the Old Testament, you already see that like Abraham, when there was a famine in Ur of the Chaldees, God directs Abraham to go to Egypt. Because you see, the River Nile serves an international purpose, and so they were able to get food. And you think Abraham went just he and Sarah? No. Usually they would travel in caravans.
So to put it in simple terms, Egypt being in Africa has played a very crucial role.
Critical. And of course there are people now who begin to argue and say Egypt is not in Africa. that Eurocentric thinking has dominated. You remember the people who used to say that the first man to discover South Africa was Jan van Riebeeck, 1652. That is a big lie. It's like those who said
Columbus,
discovered America, and in Kenya, the first man to see Mount Kenya,
was a white
the Barton and Speke, the discovery of the Nile, as if Africans never, saw these things before. First man, it's very, very misleading, very misleading. And so, as Africans, we need to redress our historiography. We need a clear-cut definition of who we are. And I think what Ngugi wa Thiong'o did by writing and saying, you know, Christianity is a colonial religion. You find Chinua Achebe writing about Europeans as, you know, foreigners to the African situation, and so Christians are foreign to the continent. All these are lies.
But it's so unfortunate. Don't you think it's so unfortunate these scholars are not specialists in history?
No,
or
that's
something
yeah,
like
a lot of
anthropology.
Exactly, a lot of them went to write and assumed that you know, what they wrote was nothing but the truth. The issue is some of them needed a better training in history, a better training in Christian traditions and theology. Before you write, it's always good to investigate and check your facts. And so, you know, Ngugi just buys into what Kenyatta used to write in Facing Mount Kenya. Actually, when the white man arrived, the Africans had the land, and they had the Bible. They asked us to close our eyes and pray, and when we opened them, they had the land and we had the Bible. So you have all these kinds of things that are shaping the way you know, African people think. And our children are going to university today, and they are very hostile to Christianity for no reason, and they are adopting atheism. For example, atheism. You think atheism is Africa? No, it's not. Atheism is very Western. And Beatty writes and says the African is notoriously religious. The Africans by nature are religious. So atheism, if we are being blamed for you know, being foreign or embracing foreign ideology, what about the atheists?
Now, don't you think such a people like Ngugi and Chinua Achebe are writing stuff about Christianity without the benefit of Christian history? They haven't taken enough time to invest in maybe studying Christian
and not
history.
just Christian history, but history altogether. Because history, if you are going to talk history, then the first place you start is who is interpreting that history, or how is that history being shaped. Because you see, for the white man or those from Europe, everything is Eurocentric, and the African could come and say everything, you know, began and ends with Africa. Like those who used to say the Garden of Eden was in Tanzania and all that. So without the benefit of archaeology and so on, you can make all those assumptions. But your historiography is informed largely by who tells you how to think about history. Yeah. So it's important that as Africans, we have a balanced and objective view of facts and not just rush to things because, you know, they're African or Western. Yeah. By the way, Christianity is neither Western nor African. Actually, more accurately, we would say it's Middle Eastern.
But you can say it had to start somewhere.
It had to start somewhere. If it started in Africa, the Westerners would say there's a problem. And there are people, even if it started in Europe, they would say there's a problem. So it had to start somewhere. But the most important thing is that God has instituted a universal faith for everyone. It's universal in that when you read John 3:16, it said, whosoever believes in him. Christianity is without any segregation.
Now that
Christianity,
that verse in itself, to me, brings in this age-old argument of responsibility versus the sovereignty of God.
Yes, but I can tell you, for me, that verse singles out Christianity as a universal faith.
Yes.
You see, if it's whosoever, then it's regardless of your culture, regardless of your age, regardless of your gender, regardless of anything. Whosoever believes,
you have an option.
Yes. you actually have the same privilege as everybody else.
Yes, actually.
And you see, there are faiths today. Unless you speak a particular language, you cannot reach God. Unless you do unless you are born in a particular family, then you're not religious enough and all that. If you criticize our man, if you say something about so and so, you cannot, you know, you die.
You have to go for your neck.
So I would say, for me, the universality of Christianity is critical. And whoever comes to Christ is received without any limitation. So when people say that God is masculine, or God is gender biased, or the God of Christians is this or the other, I don't buy into that. Man, it was nice. It was really nice talking.